Hey, what's up you guys? The Curious Owl here, and today I have my November 2021 wrap-up. So November was not my best month by any means. I actually ended up being, again, in a pretty bad reading slump. My mental health has basically been up and down the last several weeks, and I don't know. I think it's just with the holiday season and it getting darker and colder, which I do not like. This is not my favorite part of the year. It's kind of just been weighing on me. And then there's been just other mental, personal problems I've been kind of coming up against, and it's been really affecting my reading. I will say though, I have one book that I read in the entirety of November that did not help, and actually I think made things a lot worse in terms of my reading slump. And the book I'm currently working on, there was a part of it that I definitely think also did not help and contributed to my reading slump. So it's a little bit of myself, a little bit of the stuff I read. It's just kind of a meh kind of month, honestly. But let's get into the stuff that you are interested in, hopefully, which is the stats for the month. So in November, I did complete 3 books that were all my D20 books for the month of November, which was great. And I am currently in the middle of another book and should be able to actually finish it today, which is when I'm filming this, December 1st. I read a total of 1,190 pages, listened to 0 minutes worth of audiobooks. All 3 books I read were physical and were from my personal library. As far as star ratings, I had 2 of the 3 be 5 stars and 1 of them be a 2-star. It did cause me to unhaul the book itself and the second book in the series that I had in my library because I had no desire to continue with the series, and I'll get into that in a moment. But let's go over what I read this month. So first and foremost, I have my Vampire Academy read that I did not finish in October, which was Frostbite. I do have a video for this book on my channel you can go check out, but short and sweet, I loved Frostbite. It was absolutely amazing. I think it honestly blew Vampire Academy out of the water for me. I just loved so much about it. A lot of the complexities that were involved with Rose and her mother, Rose and Dimitri, Rose and Lissa, and Rose herself fighting against herself in a lot of ways. And I just really, really enjoyed it. I had so much fun with it. And I realized that by the time I ended this book that I actually had read more of Vampire Academy than I had originally thought. I thought that I had stopped reading Vampire Academy after Frostbite, but it turns out I actually did end up reading book 3, which is Shadowkissed, when I had first read the series. So that made me very excited because that meant that I just had got further in the series than I originally thought. The second book that was my other 5-star for this month was Flower, Crowns, and Fearsome Things. I was about to start off with Fearsome Things, and that's not what it is, but Flower, Crowns, and Fearsome Things by Amanda Lovelace. This is Amanda Lovelace's newest poetry collection, and this one basically delves on the idea of Persephone, who is a Greek goddess. And most people know the story of Hades and Persephone, how Persephone basically was brought down to the underworld to be Hades' bride and was taken from her mother, who is Demeter, I think that's her mother's name. But basically this poetry collection is inspired by the duality of women, really, in general. And the duality of a woman in terms of the fact that there is the softer side and then there is the darker side, especially when it comes to women who have been in very abusive relationships or friendships or in toxic households, things of that nature. And it really just explores the complexities of women in general, even without anything toxic or abusive in their lives. The duality of a woman themselves and basically how they navigate life. But there are several trigger warnings that Amanda Lovelace does place at the beginning of this collection, such as things like intimate partner abuse, sexual assault, cheating, child abuse, trauma, death, violence, misogyny, body image, eating disorders, alcohol, fire, and possibly more, because there is likely so many other things you could pick out that would be a trigger for any person that goes into reading this, which is one thing I really appreciate with Amanda, is that she really stresses the importance of understanding that when you go into her collections, they are filled with pain, they are filled with strife, because they are poems that are very personal to her, deal with things that either she herself went through or is very understanding of things that women go through. And so I absolutely love this. I never feel like Amanda Lovelace really misses with the poetry collection, especially some of her newer ones. I feel like these hit so much harder. There's just so many great things that she points out about specifically this, like I said, duality and complexity of women. And what's really cool is it alternates, like I said, between the softer portions, which are usually denoted with these nice pink, very soft looking flower pictures, and then when you go to the next poem, it usually has these flowers on fire, which indicates kind of the darker side of things, and it basically alternates like that throughout the entirety of the collection. Now, the one book I read that I think really put me in a massive reading slump and was honestly quite a disappointment in the sense that I really disliked it for a lot of reasons, and it's gonna be probably a shock to a lot of people that I know that have read this series or have been planning to read this series and may have thought I would have liked it because of the writing, because of the ideas of it. It just was not what I had wanted it to be, and I was sorely disappointed by that, and that is Daughter of Smoke and Bone by Laini Taylor. Ever since I've been on YouTube, on BookTube, I have heard people rave about Laini Taylor and specifically Daughter of Smoke and Bone. More so about Strange the Dreamer than this series, but I still have heard a lot of people say this is one of their favorite trilogies of all time when it comes to YA, paranormal, supernatural, with romance thrown in. I cannot tell you really too many things that I liked about it other than the writing style and I guess the overall initial concept of this story, because everything else about it was piss poor in my opinion. I hated the overall structure of the story and how things were revealed over the course of it. I really disliked the romantic idea that was involved in this story and how that was divulged. I disliked the amount of kind of in the middle of things that were that we were thrown into in this story. Essentially, you're thrown into this world with no context. You're basically grasping at straws trying to figure out how things are connected, and you don't learn any of those connections until toward the end, and I really disliked that. It honestly caused me to be in such a massive reading slump without even looking at my mental state over the course of the month. I was dragging my feet reading this because I was so confused. I was so beyond bored throughout most of it, and nothing was saving this other than the beautiful writing. Like, that was basically it, and the only reason why it got a 2-star as opposed to a complete DNF or even 1-star. And I am just so very upset with this because I had such high hopes for this, and it really, really let me down, unfortunately. This is probably my most disappointing read of the entire year, to be honest. And that entire thought process going through this book has led me to not only unhaul this book itself, but then the sequel, Days of Blood and Starlight. I have no interest in reading the rest of this series. I disliked this so much that I had no pull to continuing with the series, and so I have decided to now unhaul both books. Sorry if you really liked it. If you really liked this series, I'm happy you did. I just couldn't do it. Those are the 3 books I ended up reading over the course of November. Like I said, I am in the middle of another one, which is Different Seasons by Stephen King. I will say that one of the stories in this anthology really did also make things drag a lot for me, and it was because it was just really gruesome and really hard to kind of conceptualize the whole thing, but I did finish the story, and I'm in one that is much more entertaining right now, so I'm getting better at it. But if you guys have read any of these books yourselves and would like to share your opinions on them with me, please feel free to down in the comments below. If you guys did enjoy this video, please do give it a big thumbs up, and if you haven't already and you'd like to be and would like to see more content like this, go ahead and hit that button down below and subscribe to become an owlet in our flock, and I will see all of you guys in my next video. Bye guys!